Hello everyone, welcome back to On the Fly. Today we'll be taking a look at Day 7, also known as the quarterfinals of the World Junior Championship, currently happening in Gothenburg, Sweden. So to take a look at the scores from today's games, we will see a bunch of upsets, really. I mean, when you take a look at it, 4-3 for Finland over Slovakia could be considered an upset, 3-2. The Czechs beat Canada, that's a pretty big upset. Sweden almost lost today, almost an upset. And it was pretty surprising, actually, as we sort of seen. For me, it was really interesting to see how the teams have sort of evolved over the years. I mean, when you look back at this tournament from, say, 5-6 years ago, you're looking at one of 2 or 3 teams that would always take this tournament. It was either normally Canada, it was the Finns, it was the US, it was the Russians, it was the Swedes, whoever it might be. It was just a handful of teams normally that would take this tournament. Now it's really anybody's game, and that's what makes this tournament so special. And as we take a look, we'll start with the first game of the day, and this was probably one of, if not the best game from today, with Finland over Slovakia, 4-3 in overtime. And in this game, it was sort of good game. Exciting, if you want to call it that, surprising. I mean, Slovakia, they played their game, Finland played their game, and we saw the two teams clash. Slovakia had times where they set the pace, Finland had times where they set the pace. Normally, whoever set the pace ended up resulting in a goal. We saw a goal that was, according to TSN, out of time, but according to the actual game clock, right, which was interesting. And you had, obviously, the game winner from Finland, and you had last-second heroics. 1:30 was left on the clock for the 3-2 goal for Finland. Then you had the 3-3 goal with 45 seconds left. And then we made it to overtime, and it was a pretty quick overtime. So you really can't complain about that. 4-3 is your final in overtime for Finland. They will move on to the semifinals. And for Slovakia, they just missed out yet again, overtime. Think back to last year, you had the Connor Bedard. And it's just, they're missing out by this much. And the one thing I will mention about this game, Adam Gajan, whatever, stood on his head today. But it's worth noting that if we remember back to the last video we made, he was a healthy scratch in that game against the US. They got killed because he wasn't in there. They had a pretty good game aside from their goaltending. So it probably would have made a pretty big difference. And who knows, they might have got to play Latvia if they would have won that game. Just sort of a tough break for Slovakia to have to play a team like Finland, who's really looking good. Like they found their groove, and I can now say that confidently. We've looked back at them from the start of the tournament when they played Germany to now. They are a completely different team, and they are playing actual Finnish hockey again, which is really what they need to do. Especially, they aren't necessarily the most skilled team at this tournament. I'm not saying they are, but where they do make up that ground is in their play style, their commitment to their sort of game. They're playing their trap style defense, playing their, you make a mistake, they're going to jump on that, and that's where Finland really makes up their money. Your score today for Finland, 4-3. They move on to the semis. And then let's take a look at the other game from today with the Czechs beating Canada, 3-2. Your final, last second goal off Bonk's shin pad. We don't really like to talk about it. 11 seconds left. Not really a fan, but in all honesty, the Czechs played a heck of a game today. They earned their win every step of the way. And for Canada, just, it's the same old problems. No finish. They had a lot of problems today hitting the net. That was a big problem. The majority of their shots that did hit the net were from corner slots. We were actually live for this one, and I'll show you the reaction to when they scored the goal.
I'm pretty sure. Memory serves. But a large part of that comes from, there's not a lot of Slovakian-born players in the NHL, or in really, it's not the NHL per se, but oh my God. Czechs just scored. Oh my God. Czechs just scored. Oh my God. Just turn the TV off. Don't turn it on.
So anyway, yeah, not exactly the happiest of campers, I might add. I was in mid-sentence. I looked down because I thought it was going to be a little dump and play. And then sure enough, I look up and it's, behind Mathis Rousseau in the back of Canada's net with 11 seconds to go. So anyway, if you aren't hitting the notification bell or subscribe, be sure to do so, because that is how you will get notifications when we do go live. And you would have been a part of that today as you got to laugh at me. The whole chat was after me. If you did join the live stream, big thank you. You made it all the best. But with that being said, 3-2 is your final for the Czechs over Canada. Czechs earned every step of that win. They looked pretty good today, and they'll have to carry it through. They got a tough opponent in Sweden, so we'll see if they can keep that going. But as we take a look at the third game from today, sort of a wipe-off, 7-2 U.S. over Latvia. In this game, it was a 7-2 game. Honestly, the U.S. played the U.S. and Latvia just couldn't really keep up. So that game, U.S. obviously is going to steamroll a team like Latvia. They did. They got their job done. 7-2 is your final. Then let's take a look at the Sweden-Switzerland game. And I'll start off by prefacing this, and this is an apology to all my Swedish fans because I almost jinxed you guys. So typically when I, do my videos, I start off the day by getting some graphics done, which you see right here. And I will also sort of mention that I kind of called this game after it was 2-0. I put out all the graphics, I made all the little things you see today before the game ended, and whenever I walked away, I come back, and sure enough, it's not 2-0 anymore. It's 2-1. Then you see it's a 2-2 game, and then it's overtime. I might add as well, okay, this is a heart-to-heart with you guys. We do not call penalties in the last 5 minutes of a quarterfinal game likely to go to overtime, and especially not weak ones. The spearing, slashing, whatever you're going to call it, not a penalty. The hook, I mean, it is a penalty. I'm not arguing it's not a penalty, but you don't call that in a quarterfinal game with basically the game on the line in overtime. You don't call the little can opener that wasn't really controversial to the play. Sweden retained possession. Nothing really happened. He was already passing it off. And they call a 2-minute hook on that. I don't really agree. But nonetheless, then Sweden potted the final goal. And that moves them on to the semifinals as well. So, I mean, Sweden, honestly, I gotta say, they looked really, really good. They just sort of let off the steam a little bit in the third, and Switzerland sort of capitalized on that. And we sort of see that, especially with these European teams, aren't necessarily the most skilled. What they do is they play a good solid style of that trap defense. What they do, if you make a mistake, they're going to capitalize on it, go back up and score a goal. And that's what Switzerland does really well, and that's how they are so successful. But with that being said, let's take a look at the news from today. We sort of touched on it with Slovakia. Be careful what you wish for. That's what my mother once told me, and it's pretty intelligent, I got to say. Because, you throw one game, you get Finland, and Finland takes care of you. That's how it works. You could have had Latvia if you would have beat the U.S. You didn't. You didn't play to beat the U.S. Remember, Guyon was a healthy scratch, not an injury guy. So just an interesting little snippet there. Be careful what you wish for. Remember that one. Life lessons here on the Fly. With that being said, then we have Finland trending upwards. They played a really good game. Canada got bonked today off the shin pad of Oliver Bunk. Poor guy. Not to make fun of him, but it's just sort of that tough break. It hits off a stick, looks like a dump in, hits off a stick, hits off a shin pad in the back of the net. Mathis Rousseau can't do anything about that. 2 weak goals from him today. Once again, though, not his fault. At the end of the day, it's a team game. You got to put the pucks in the net when you're given the chances. Then for the Czechs, they played pretty well today, I got to say, especially against a skilled team like Canada. They did what they had to do, and they took it. And first time they've ever beat Canada in the medal rounds, or the playoffs, however you want to call it. So that was really good for them. They're playing well. They have some momentum going into their semifinals. They'll play Sweden. Will be an interesting game. Then, as we take a look at the U.S., U.S. is now a wagon. We're calling them the wagon wheel because they are on a roll. And when we take a look at the U.S., they're playing really well, playing good hockey, playing skilled hockey. I'll be curious to see, however, once they get to play a team like Finland, who we've seen Canada play against, will they be stuck in Finland's ability to trap them, or will they play around them and play in their skilled game? If they can play in their skilled game, the U.S. will kill Finland by far. But it'll be interesting nonetheless. And then we have Sweden sneaking by, just sneaking by. So close to almost getting knocked out, almost with the Sweden curse. I almost jinxed you. I didn't, so we're good. I will try and refrain from doing that again, but we will see. And lastly, we sort of touched on it with the penalty galore for Switzerland. 2 penalties late in the game. I mean, you're just not going to kill that against a team like against Sweden. You're eventually going to have one put in. They did. That's your end result. As we take a look at the playoff structure, as we see here, there's a little bit of restructuring in terms of the semifinals. So yesterday's bracket is different than today's bracket. We have Sweden and the Czechs will play semifinals on January 4th, as well as the US and Finland will be the other semifinal matchup, as well as relegation. And as we take a look at the time slots from January 4th, so not tomorrow, but the day after, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have our first relegation game, one and only. Remember, this is a single game knockout. Winner moves on to next year's tournament. Loser demoted to the Division 1A tournament, group, whatever you want to call them, tournament. So just important to note that. It's our last year was sort of the first year of relegation back after COVID. This year, it's Germany and Norway. Winner take all. Last year was 2 of 3. This year is a single game knockout. Very, very important for both these nations. Germany is a team who I'm looking for to really take control of this game, because if Norway gets themselves going, we've seen it time and time again, Norway will win this game, and I would not be surprised to see it. I'm going to go out on a prediction here, and I'm sure I'll get chirped. If I do get this wrong, come back here, tell me, or come to the next video and tell me. I'm picking Norway. I think Norway's got this game under control. We'll see if they do. Then we have the 2 semifinal games. 9 o'clock, you got Sweden and the Czechs. And in this game, I have to say, I think Sweden will take it. But I said the same thing earlier today, and I would not be surprised to see the Czechs take this one. But I am taking Sweden. I think it'll be probably a 4-2 game with the empty netter. 4-2 is my final score for that one. And then you have Finland and the US. This game I think is going to be interesting, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Finland. I don't know why. I just have a hunch that the U.S. is going to get sort of boggled in the structure. And I think when we look at the playoffs, this is a long shot. I'm taking the U.S. not to medal at this tournament. Tell me in the comments why I'm crazy, but I'm taking the U.S. not to medal at this tournament. I think they're going to come 4th. I think the Czechs are going to beat them in the bronze medal game. But nonetheless, we'll see. Obviously, plenty of hockey. But with that being said, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like to consider subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on quarterfinal action of the World Junior Championship. Until next time, see ya.